working with the local church to take the hope of Christ to every student in the United States. This is First Priority. Now, here are your hosts, Steve Chirico and Brad Schelling.
Well, hello, everybody. Welcome to the First Priority Podcast. My name is Brad Schelling. I have with me today Heather Bundy. Heather, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Good morning.
So we've got a great episode for you today because we are training on the Hope Guide that we have, that we put out. First Priority of America puts out and resources one guide every year. I think everybody listening to this podcast probably knows that we run a 4-week cycle, and we've been pushing out an epic cycle the past couple of years. This year we're pushing out a Hope Guide, doing the resources for it, and we're super excited about equipping students with these resources so they can share Jesus with their friends. And so thanks, Heather, for joining us today, for leading the team that helped get this ready for this national push. Just being you and allowing us to utilize your gifts in this way. So thank you for doing that.
Thank you. It was a lot of fun, actually. We had a good time as a team, and
Yes,
we're excited about this year. So,
it was
yeah,
fun. It was fun. When you think about the details, you wouldn't necessarily call a 3-hour meeting fun. But I think it was joyful in the midst of the detail work that got done.
it was. It was. Lots of
So
laughter, lots of good ideas. So it was a lot of fun.
introduce yourself again. I know a lot of people know you, but where are you? Who are you? Tell us a little bit about
Yeah.
you and your family and
Yeah.
such.
So I'm Heather Bundy. I'm the Fort Worth director for First Priority. I love it. So I'm over several counties in this area and I'm enjoying all of that. I've been with First Priority for 3 years in August, started out as an area coordinator, and I'm now over all these counties and just really what I love the most is equipping students to share the gospel, to understand that there are missionaries on their campus. But I love that we partner with the local church as well.
Yeah.
That's been part of my joy is just uniting the local church to really see how they can equip and empower their students. So been married 25 years as of this month. We have two
Congratulations.
children. Thank you. We have two children, 22-year-old son William and 21-year-old daughter Emma. So we're in that partial empty nest stage and
Mm-hmm.
just enjoying life. So in fact, we leave
Right.
tomorrow to go visit my parents and go to a friend's wedding. So we're looking
Oh, very
forward to
cool.
our time together. Yeah.
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 Yeah. Cool. Cool. Well, I'm kind of going to turn this over to you and let you go with it and talk through it and things of that nature, and walking us through what this year looks like. Because, yeah, even though it's an encounter week, right? It's the 4th week of the cycle instead of the 3rd week of the cycle. There's a lot of
Mhm.
similarities. We're not changing who we are. It's just changing the tools and the details, and we just want to walk through that today. So, I'll give you the floor and let you run for a little bit and interrupt when I think of things. How's that sound?
That's right. That sounds great.
Okay.
So, yes, if you are going to have a club on your campus or you're a staff member training, you will get a kit or order a kit. And what that'll look like, we started binders last year, so you'll have a binder. But this year, you'll add on a couple things. You'll have an adult training manual, which is what we're going to go through today, because the student training manual is similar. There aren't any additional things in the student training manual. So going through the adult one will help you train your students as well. But we're adding in a student training manual as well, because one of the recommendations we are making is that you train your adults and your students separately if possible, so that you can really press into what the adults need or split them out if you have them together and then press into what the students need. So in your binder, we've refined that a little bit, and you'll see some things in there. You'll still have your leader guides, the intro week lesson, which we're going to go through, guide lessons, and then you're going to have a couple of additions in here: holiday issues, which we're going to talk about today, follow-up resources, and games at the end. So that'll be the base of your binder this year. And it'll have all the tools that a coach or a mentor needs to be able to guide their students. But some of the big changes are that we are switching to Hope, which means more than the 4 in your tools. So as we talk through Hope today, you're going to
Mm-hmm.
get to see some of those tools and what they look like. So in addition to having your binder, you're going to have each month different tools that are in your backpacks or boxes, however your leaders provide those to you, so that you'll be able to effectively train your students and lead and guide your students as you go. So as you open up your adult training tools, you'll have a letter in there that explains the differences and the similarities. Because, like Brad said, we're not changing who we are. We are still taking the hope of Christ to every student. We're doing that by uniting the local church to equip and empower their students. So none of that is changing. But some of the key changes for us are those tools, and then the fact that Connect Week is going to happen every week as your students are leading. So those are probably the 2 biggest changes to us for this week. And then if you didn't have an intro week last year, that's another tool. It's an additional training tool. It can be led by
Yep.
the adults or by the students. So that's a unique thing to Hope that'll change for us. But that
And
letter will explain everything. Go ahead, Brad.
I was going to say, can I make my first
Yes.
interruption?
Yes.
If you don't have a guide yet at this point in time and you're listening in, you can get this guide in a digital version online. So go to firstparty.org /resources or firstparty.org and then scroll down to the resources and you'll see the conversation up there. That's the theme. You can click on that and walk through. If you're listening into the podcast, Heather is holding up resources as she's talking about them on the
Mhm.
screen. So you can go over to the YouTube channel and watch this and kind of follow along and look at the stuff that Heather is talking about. So wanted to throw that in there.
No, that's perfect. Yeah. So as you're training, one of the things we want you to do, you'll go through the binder, you'll go through these training materials. But as you start training, what we want you to do is be reminded of who we are. So the first thing
Mm.
we'll do is set up by talking about the mission and the vision, talking about our core values, which set us apart. And that's really what we want you to do first: introduce each other, get to know each other. That's the first step for us always with First Priority. Next, though, will be that we are looking at each chapter and who they're designed to be and how the structure of their clubs look. And so we've given you an opportunity in the materials to kind of decide what your chapters are going to look like. Whether that is the traditional model that we've had with the 5 roles and a coach or a mentor in there with you, or whether that is starting to look at a volunteer type structure. And we've given 2 options in the training materials for that structure and how you can partner that. Now, what this means is more adults are on campus, but this does not mean that adults are running our clubs. Like Brad mentioned before, we're not changing who we are. We are student led, and that's part of our strategy. But in providing support on campus, we want adults to have the opportunities to pour into these kids, whether those are student leaders from our churches, grandparents, parents. We want them on campus to be able to pour into students at schools. And so, what they're really intended to do is provide adult roles that mirror what the students are doing to better equip and empower them. So, if you have a welcome role as a student, then you have a welcome adult that's helping that student to
Yep.
know how to best welcome, where to stand, how to get the most exposure, all of those kinds of things to equip and empower them.
Yep.
Or from one of our other structures, there's a manager. So helping that manager to support the other roles. What does that look like? How do I pour into my peers? And so
Hmm.
that's really what those adults are intended to do. We put both sheets. The traditional structure is not in here, but we put both sheets if you're going to move to a volunteer model in there. And what you'll do is remove the one you won't be using and keep the one that you will be using when you're training.
Yep.
Knowing also that we don't expect you to have a volunteer model in a month or 3 weeks whenever you're watching this, or 1 week from now. Fort Worth moved to a volunteer model last September as I took over the role of director, and we are still not fully there. It is a work in progress. We're moving toward it. And we're finding those volunteers. It's a part of our goals every year to make that look better and better as we build our clubs. So,
Yeah.
um, so you'll train on that and train your adult leaders. And so adult leaders, if you're watching or listening to the podcast, you'll get to learn how your chapters want you to look, the design that they desire for their clubs in your area. And then the next thing you'll train on is your club mentor roles. What does a mentor or coach look like in your area? What are our expectations for that? What does a volunteer look like in our area? Always reminding our adults that our students are the heroes of the story, right? We want them to be the missionaries on their campus. And so, what does that look like for you? How do you help us to make sure every student is seen on the campus?
Yep.
Um, After that, we're going to talk to you about those commitment forms. So that's what's in there next. So you'll be getting those. You'll sign those either in our app or on physical paper, depending on how that looks for your chapter. Some of our chapters use the app. Some of our chapters have other apps or programs that they use, and some have you signing a form. And so we'll have you do that, committing to us for the year, what that looks like, what our expectations are for you as a club coach, a faculty sponsor, or a volunteer on our campus.
Yep.
But speaking of the app, we'll train on the app next. There's been a lot of new additions and changes to the app that you'll see as you're being trained that are really, really exciting. Actually, the way you can you can chat with your student leaders only is one of the examples. Or
Yep.
I'm trying to think of some of the others, Brad, that he talked to us about. Can
The
you remember
commitment
some of
forms
them?
are new in the app,
Yes.
the
Hmm.
onboarding, just making sure everybody, um, yeah, walks through and recommits themselves.
Hmm.
Yeah, I was just up in the Metro East and talking about that process and asking those questions and yeah, just getting everybody on board, making sure, hey, yeah, I am committed to this year. I'm not just kind of lingering, but we're in. Let's go. Let's take the hope of Christ to every student. So a lot of great things in the app. I would say again, go back to firstparty.org. If you want specific training on the app, go in there. This video we won't go into the app training in
Hmm.
detail, but Michael has done a great job putting a training together. Click on it's firstparty.org/app. I'm sure I haven't looked it up, but we keep it simple. So go look that up, get that training specific for the app so that it's a club management tool is what it is to manage your club, assign leader roles, assign resources to each week. So everybody that's in the club can follow along with what's going on.
Right. And if you're an adult leader and you know you're going to be committed with us this next year, go ahead and get signed up now. Then you're ready for training. If your
Yep.
students get signed up now, it helps in that process. And like Brad said, one of the things I love for this year is the onboarding will be a lot easier for
Yep.
adults inside of the app. And we've gotten that streamlined. And so we need your help in that way. That's how we manage all of our stuff for the year. And it's a huge part
Yep.
of who we are.
And
I
and we
love that
have
I can go in every week and get the stories. That's what I love the
yeah.
most.
Yeah.
So,
Well, and we have given more ownership to the coaches and the teachers or the ability to
mhm,
like they can let students in because you as the Fort Worth director don't know students in every school, but the coach can. So yeah, like you said, if the coach and the teacher sponsor can be ready before the training of the students in the app, then they can be letting students in because, hey, let me in, and they can assign them
yeah.
a role. So,
That's
yep.
I think one of my favorite features because for me, if I have a club that has 3 lunches and a
Hmm.
student signs up, I don't always know what lunch they're in, but my
Yep.
coaches, my mentors do.
Correct.
And
Correct.
so they're able to allow them access where I would have had to have waited till the next week, found out which kid was in which lunch and then
Yep.
added them in. So,
Let me
um,
say one more thing. If a student doesn't have a cell phone and looking at the app, ask if, it's okay to use their parent's cell phone number because we do require that just to continue to differentiate with people and be authentic and real, not have spammers in the app. Um, but sign up with their parents' phone number if possible. It's not always appropriate or possible, but the first time, then they can add their email address and log in that way after that. And the
mm,
app isn't just a phone app, it's also the same on the desktop. So if they have a Chromebook or a laptop, uh, they will still get notifications and can follow along, and they will not be left out because they don't have a cell phone. So wanted to make that caveat there as well. They can log in with an email address after the first time, and then they can move forward along with the rest of the club. So,
Yes. And that helps even for those of us, because Texas is a no phone state, to have some of
yep.
that accessibility too. So, to still be able to get announcements and things through the
Hmm.
chat options. So,
Yep.
so it's helpful. Yeah. So once you train on the app, and like you said, you can get more training in depth through our website and with your chapter directors as they are training you throughout the summer and early fall. We're going to start to train and go through the how-to guide. How do I do this? How do I get familiar with what hope is and what this is going to look like? How do I understand the club flow? Because where it is very similar, there are some changes. So the club flow is you'll now have a random question of the week to start your week. And there'll be 2 copies of the lesson. One will be it's labeled as the mentor, but for us, mentor and coach are synonymous. And so whether you're a coach in your area or you're a mentor in your area, that section is for you. It has the random question on it. This is what helps us to make sure every student is seen. I have a club in Cleburne here in Texas that started at about 20, ended the year at just shy of 200, sorry. And 3 churches were partnered with them, and they would come to us as first priority and those club coaches wanting to know what the random question of the week was going to be. So it's a
Mm,
way to engage them. It's a way to get them excited about the week.
yep.
But then after that is how you're going to get connected. So this is where one of those changes are. Our coaches and mentors are going to be the ones to help students get connected. So whether that's a church shout out, which is one of the examples of
Yep.
what we show adults what that looks like. So this is not an adult taking over the club, but it's an adult that says, "Hey, welcome in. We're so excited. Heather's hosting today. Brad is going to be speaking. Let me just do a church shout out for who's in the room. My name is Travis, and I'm from Travis Avenue Baptist, and my name
Mm,
is, you know, Brandon, and I'm from High Ridge," and letting them introduce themselves so that our students know what churches are in the room,
mm-hmm.
what churches they can resource for mentorship. So that connect piece is going to happen every single week, whether
Mm,
that is how to get connected by text, by social media, inviting others, church shout outs. Those are going to happen right there at the beginning of that lesson. And then it's going to transition very quickly back to what we are very familiar with, which is the host welcoming in, praying, the speaker speaking, and the host coming back up to have that challenge and that end to the lesson. So that's a little bit about the club flow for Hope. But I'm going to stop here and talk a little bit about Hope itself. Like I said, you're going to have 2 lessons. That first one is going to be an intro week. That one only has 1 lesson because, like I said, you're going to have either yourself as the adult or the student lead that lesson.
mm-hmm.
And it's a quick introduction to what hope is for the year, so the theme, but also who first priority is. So
Yep.
you've trained your students ideally, and then this one is just that gentle, like, hey, someone may have invited another friend from their church and they want to hear what first priority is. And so they get to hear about the roles that students play, what that looks like every week, how to lead. So that's your intro lesson. But Hope itself,
Can,
I'm getting.
can I s-
Go
can
ahead.
I say
Yeah.
something about the intro lesson? Because one of
Yes.
the things I heard from you and Natalie and Tim and Christy from the team and was for us as leaders to make sure that we're familiar with the content. Like,
Hmm.
don't walk in and just have a piece of paper and hand it to the kids and just wing it, right? But for
Yep.
us to know as the primary leader, whoever's listening to this, watching to this, read it. Read the whole year if you can. Take a 4-hour block. I don't know how fast you read, but read to become familiar with the gospel tools. You haven't gotten there yet, but that intro
Hmm.
week, and even if you're at a training event, or if this podcast is your only training that you're going to go through in order to get started, sit down, familiarize yourself, and take time during intro week to let students get familiar. That's why we're doing an intro week. Some places are taking 2 intro weeks just to say, hey, let's
Yep.
allow this mantra to settle, this content to settle into our souls, so that it's rooted and can
Hmm.
sprout, right? And
Yeah.
So yeah, don't just skip over that. Take time,
Yes.
train students, and don't assume either just because they heard it once. If every student that's in the room the first week was at a training before, say it again, because it takes 7 times for us to understand sometimes. So yeah, don't skip over that intro week.
Yes, for sure. We're ones that are going to take 2 weeks. We're going to do one where the adult leads, and we're going to train our students. Our schools know that because we do it in school so that they can invite their friends from other churches, and then we'll take 1 week with intro, and the coaches or mentors will decide whether or not the student leads it or they do. But it is pivotal. You're right, because as a coach or a mentor, especially, your primary job, especially if you're moving to a volunteer model where you've got someone who's helping the welcome person, you've got someone who's helping, the setup and cleanup people, whatever that looks like
Hmm.
for your chapters, your primary goal is to walk alongside that host and that speaker. So knowing the content, especially
Yep.
since there are going to be so many more gospel tools, is pivotal for you to be able to walk alongside that student well,
Yep.
and really understand it. And understand what they're going to be speaking on, because we all know that we can get tripped up with some of the words in the Bible, right? And so
Hmm.
just being able to guide them and walk alongside them to be able to give them a word, help them
Yeah.
understand better what they're doing as they lead. So
Yeah.
but yes, hope is super exciting. Like we mentioned, it's instead of just having one gospel tool the way Epic did, to where we press into that gospel tool and the characteristics of that throughout the Bible and how that's exemplified, we're going to switch to hope, which is going to be 6 gospel tools.
Yep.
So 6 months of guides that you're working through, plus 3 holiday issues. You'll have a holiday issue at Christmas, you'll have a holiday issue at Valentine's, and you'll have a holiday issue at Easter. Those will have additional tools that the students are learning inside of that. And the way that it works is that we still have an acronym. It just looks a little different. Our H week is Help Week. So in that week, whatever the gospel focus is going to be will be introduced, but also the gospel tool will be introduced. So you
Hmm.
will be giving them. I'm trying to find the. We'll have one of the months, for example, is a salvation bracelet. So they'll have a card and they'll have a bracelet. Our bracelets, you'll have 2 options. It'll be one like this, depending on what your chapter decides, or one that looks more like this but has the right colors
Hmm.
on it. And so you'll have those, and your speaker will introduce that gospel tool for that week. And so what we're saying this year with conversations is the Help Week is going to equip students to start a gospel conversation. How do I start that? What does it look like? What tool do I have to do that with? And so knowing that tool ahead of time for your students is going to be pivotal, because there will be questions as they go along. And then the O week is what we call Opportunity Week. And that is where you're going to encourage students to see the opportunities and how they share their faith. This is where you're going to dig a little deeper as students. So they're going to have questions that they're asking each other. How to have conversations. One of the months is how to have conversations with your enemies. So how to really dig into those hard conversations. What does that look like? How do I do that? How do I start it? How do I engage it? What does that look like for me? So the opportunity week is really digging into that a little bit deeper. And then you come to Prepare Week. And Prepare Week is where we're empowering students to share their faith story. So similar to what we would have seen in Epic in the Prepare Week, this is preparing them with their testimony. It's teaching them how to combine the two, to using that gospel tool and using their testimony to do that well as they share. Because during Prepare Week, we still have the invite piece. We want them to be pressing in. How do I invite students? What does that look like? We'll have invite cards for students to be able to do that well. And so you want them to also know in that week that they need to be inviting in the lost, the
Hmm.
doubting, the questioning, whatever that looks like on their campus,
Yep.
because Encounter Week is now the last week. And that's where students encounter Jesus through the gospel message. So your students will not only be sharing their life story, their faith story, but they will be using that gospel tool to engage students in making a decision for Jesus. And that's really what hope is all about. Brad, am I missing anything, or do you have any questions over that piece?
No, that was a great overview
Okay.
of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the lessons look pretty similar, where you've got a host that's praying and
Yep.
introducing the biggest change is like we talked about, that you're, as an adult leader, as that coach or mentor, you're going to be doing the random question. And the other volunteers in the room, you're going to be doing those church shout outs and welcoming everybody in. But then they're going to start right in as the host and the speaker. They're going to lead that lesson. They're going to close it out and do what they normally do, whether that's a time
Yep.
of prayer, or those invite cards or whatever that might look like.
Yep.
Um, so the
I,
holiday issues will be scheduled out for you. So your leaders for first priority will have those scheduled out based on the best week. And we don't skip a week in Hope. That's important to know as well. Even for the holiday issues or for testing or whatever that might look like on your campus. So if you have an O week, and then the next week you've got a Christmas lesson or you've got testing or something going on, you will literally just pause and then
mhm.
start with P week the next week that you come back.
Yep. Yep.
So yeah, so that's Hope. We're super excited. But like we said before, you'll start with an intro week. You'll start um, training, whether that's off campus or on campus, however that looks for you. And you'll train your students on all of this as well. They'll need to understand what looks different in Hope and what's the same.
Yep.
We know here in Fort Worth, we started talking about it and getting students excited about it in the spring. And so they're super excited to see those changes come as well.
Yep.
So I would say, as you're training, and even here, if this is your training, like you said before, spend most of your time on Hope, really dig
Yep.
into it, really take a look at it. As you're training, if you're going to be training adults or students, spend most of your time on Hope as you're training. Let them see it. Let them read through it. In
Yep.
the training materials, in this, we put ours into a bradded folder. This is going to come to you just saran wrapped, but as
Yep.
first priority staff, if you're watching this, you can put it into a bound folder like this. We just found it's easier. You could staple it, whatever makes it easy for you. Um, but um, but it has the first month's Hope cycle in it, so that you can really spend time letting people look through it, ask their
Mhm.
questions, get that all ready,
Yep.
um, as well.
I I have
Go ahead.
I have the situational awareness is what's running through my mind that I usually talk about at this point. I think there's a sheet in there somewhere that talks about if you have 30 minutes or 50 minutes
Hmm.
or whatever. I don't know if have you gotten to that yet, or am I
It's coming
ahead?
up. Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
coming up.
You're getting
I
ahead of
might
me.
hold
Yeah.
my tongue then if it's coming up.
Okay. It
But
is.
okay.
Yep. Yep. So the next thing you'll train on after you do Hope, he's right. We're about to get to the club flow as far as your timing. But it's how to run an effective club. So we have
Mhm.
some standards of how to prepare well, be present, and teamwork inside of that. And so
Yep.
as you train, as you look through our materials, those are things to get ready for, whether it's talking about being prayed up and being ready for club that week, reading through the lesson, like we mentioned throughout Hope. But then all the way down to teamwork, communication is key. How are we communicating together, first priority staff to you all to us, to make sure that we're providing the best for our students as they lead their clubs? And
Yep.
then, yes, there is a sample club flow. So what we've done is provided an opportunity for you to see, how does this look if I have a 30-minute club? It also works for 25-minute clubs. How does this look if I have a 50-minute club,
Yep.
or an after school club? Where do I add in? Because that game section in the binder, what I'll tell you is, if you have anywhere from a 20 to 30-minute club, you're likely not to get to that game section. It's why it's all the
Mhm.
way at the back. We want you to have it as a resource, but Hope takes time. And
Yep.
so we want you to really have students pressing into each other, asking those questions, getting into those tools, and really understanding how to best present the gospel to their peers. So yes, so the 30-minute club is typically for your before school, after school, or lunch clubs. And the 50-minute club for us here in Fort Worth tends to be our after school clubs, not even our
Mhm.
before school clubs.
Yep.
where we've got a little bit longer and you can add in some of those caveats. But as a coach or a mentor, that is one of your roles, is that your host is there to help keep the pace of the meeting, but you're there as the leader to go, okay, they're pushing on time. It's time to get them started. Give them that little push that says it's time to get everybody started, get everybody gathered. So you're still
Yep.
there as that adult to help to equip and empower them. So what
Yep.
do you want to add to that, Brad?
Well, yeah. So yeah, I'll give my little situational awareness speech that yeah, we can give you all these core values of being student led and gospel focused and things, and that is what we want for you and your club. But we're not in your school. We don't know the spiritual climate of your school and things of that nature. I've heard of clubs that say, yeah, we switched to mornings and we ended up with 8 minutes. So they got to be on,
Mhm.
their situation
Mhm.
is pronto. Like they got to be on it or it's over. Um, and so, yeah, lead well would be my
Mhm.
encouragement to them. I'm even thinking of Summit High School. One of their student leaders has I've been around him like 3 or 4 or 5 times in this spring, and yeah, they have lunch club, which is 45, 50 minutes. But they started doing activities because they were getting to know each other. But as the school year went off on, their club grew and they were at like over 100 most of the time in their club, and the kids just wanted to go deep, and so they limit,
Mhm.
even though they still had 50 minutes, the game went away halfway through the school year because they wanted to talk about spiritual things. And so just to lead well and walk through all of that, yeah, this is designed to give them that platform, these students that platform. Stick to it, right? Once a month, share the gospel. Stick to the plan. Don't
Mhm.
deviate from the plan. But in that, I think Jason Dahl at our annual meeting said freedom within the framework. Like keep the framework
Mhm.
there, keep the structure there, keep them focused on the tools and inviting friends to share the gospel. But there's freedom in that framework to say, hey, if your students are going deep, go deep with them, right? And have them
Mhm.
go deep leading into prepare week and invite friends in, share the gospel, and continue to go deep. Um, so yeah, that's my preaching moment for this
No, that's
morning.
good. No, that's good. That's good. That is definitely true. All of our schools look a little different, and
Hmm.
that's okay, and that's what we say because those faculty sponsors are there to support that. Those
Yeah.
coaches are there to support that, and we're there to provide the resources to make sure that you can do that. And so,
Yep.
that's really what
Well,
we're all about. And
yeah.
so,
And I was at a training yesterday too where the teacher sponsors were asking you, so anybody else have an after school club? And some of them are like, well, we did, but then we moved to before school and here's how our club changed because we are a morning club. It's different in the morning, and here's what
mhm.
happened because of that. And just rubbing shoulders with each other in the room, like, yeah, you have to navigate that as teacher sponsors and club coaches to
Mhm.
say, hey, if it's not working before school, try after school. And I think one of them said they moved it to before school because in the spring there were more of their kids that were involved in sports that had been coming and called. So yeah, when those kids are all of a sudden unavailable, you might need to switch the time of it up.
Yeah.
And it's one of those
Yeah, we
situations.
did that. Yep, we did that. We switched mid-year to a different day. So we kept lunchtime clubs, but our kids ended up in track and field, and most of the track and field meets were on Thursdays. So
Hmm.
they said for spring semester, can we switch to Tuesdays? And we were like,
Yeah.
absolutely, as long as administration
Yep.
tells you that that's okay,
Yep.
we can absolutely do that. Our morning clubs, we say we provide food right once a month.
Hmm.
Usually with the help of our fantastic church partners. And our morning clubs feel like it's important because they're asking students to come so early to have it
Hmm.
every week. And so those
Yeah.
students banded together. They've got their parents, some of
Yep.
their faculty, and their churches bringing food so that they have
Yep.
food every week.
Yep.
For those morning clubs. So it's about making it, we don't veer from the strategy, we don't veer from the mission, but we do allow you to see who you are as a club and make that work for you
Yeah.
in your areas. So
Yep.
um but yeah, the last couple of pages that we train on, the very important thing for us as far as a last step in your training are those last club details, reminding us all of what do I if I end with, especially in Hope, that's one of the little nuances. So middle and high school clubs, if you finished with Help, Opportunity, or Prepare, then end with an encounter week. So if you're on
Mm.
Help and your next week is going to be the last week, skip to that encounter week and end with an encounter week. If you just
Yep.
finished an encounter week, then end with a Help week. Give them one last tool that they're able to start their summer with and be
Sure.
able to really press into those gospel tools. And so that's something unique to Hope, as
Yep.
well as far as how you end. And then reminders in those last club times. How do they get connected? So when your churches are on campus, welcome them in, remind them of their summer activities, mission trips, youth camps, ways they can get plugged in into the local church over the summer. Make sure they're signed up to whatever you're using, social media, the app, whatever that looks like, so they can stay connected during the summer. Those churches in the room, all of those kinds of things. And then passing the torch. This is a big one that Fort Worth learned my
Mm.
first year on campus was what happens when your leadership team is all seniors or all eighth graders.
Uh-huh.
Make sure, and honestly, this should probably start for us. It starts in January. We start telling our students, who are you pouring into that's going to be the next generation? If they started these clubs, for example, Mansfield High School, Will Sherman, who's our regional manager, his son started Mansfield High School and he just graduated in May. So he spent the spring semester going, okay, who do I know that I can be asking to take the torch next, right? Because he started this legacy at his high school and he doesn't want to lose that legacy. And so who is he going to be pouring into that are freshmen, sophomores, even juniors that can be doing that and doing it well? And then prepping those eighth graders, especially if you have clubs in your middle schools that lead into your high schools, like we do in Granbury. We have both middle schools and the high school. So our eighth graders were prepared this spring to know they have clubs, what day those clubs meet, so that they can continue to press on into high school and be a part of First Priority as they enter into high school.
Yep.
And then knowing when that end time is for you. When do you end your clubs? Is that in May? Is that the last
Mhm.
week of April because of testing? What does that look like for you? So that you'll
Yep.
know all these nuances of how am I ending? How do I end with a help week or an encounter week? And what does that
Yep.
look like?
Yep.
Um, so so, which leads me to a couple of extra things that we added in there. And this is really more chapter specific. How are you planning your year? What
Yep.
does that look like? Some of our chapters plan their year where they meet with student leadership and they're planning a month at a time. Some of our chapters, they plan each week. So the coaches are meeting with different students who want to lead and they're doing that week by week. Um, how does that look like for you? And make sure you're pressing into what are we doing in each of our clubs, making sure you have students ready for each week. What does that look like? Do they have the tools that they need? Planning your year is important. So plan that with your adult leaders, with your students, so they know what to expect. Ours in Fort Worth
Yep.
know that our coaches and mentors are going to be asking for volunteers at the end of every club time, or at the
Mm.
beginning if they want to take it as they're speaking at the beginning time. But usually it's the host that's going to say, hey, if you want to volunteer next week, see, Heather at the back who's taking volunteers for
Yep.
next week. And so that's how they're going to do that. And then
Yep.
social media. We put that as an ending one because each chapter looks different. Some chapters have social media, some don't.
Yep.
Um, and so how does that look for you? What are the expectations and the guidelines? Really press into that for your adults so that your adults understand to be able to guide your students, because you're going to
Yep.
press into it in the student training as well. We have chapters that do this so well, like Kansas City with their students, and we love it. And then there's chapters like us who are trying to still figure it out, because with no phones on campus, how do
Yep.
we press into our students for social media? And so take that time, really look at what does your social media look like for you, and make sure you train on that as well.
Yep.
And that is really the end of what training will look like. You'll go through the binder. Most of our chapters will probably also have baggies with the tools for you to at least look at and
Yep.
see what each of the tools look like as a part of their training, so that you'll have your hands on it.
Yep.
And if you are a staff member, remember that you need to be ordering your materials so that we can get all those to you, whether that is the kit and first semester tools. So we're doing a semester at a time
Yep.
worth of tools for ordering. So
Yep.
in order to get those to you on time, we need those orders in.
Yep.
so that we can do that well. And that's all that I have, Brad, for training, unless you can think of anything that I missed.
Well, I would add to the ordering thing if you're, not part of a
Yeah.
chapter, get online, get on firstparty.org, click on the
Okay.
store, and there should be links in there to order materials. If you don't not finding what you need or not sure, feel free to email me, Brad at firstparty.org, or Susan at firstparty.org. And we will both either be glad to help you walk through what do you need, not just with ordering, but with all of this. Well, we're here to
Mhm.
help and walk through all that and get you what you need to help students reach students in the school. So, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I did forget one thing. As you order your kits, speaking of ordering, you're going to get one kit that'll have a set of the binder for your coach or
Hmm.
mentor, a set of the student training materials, and a set of the adult training materials. You will
Yep.
obviously, especially if you have more adults in the room, have more adults that need adult training materials. So,
Yep.
our wonderful Tayana did something really cool this year to make more copies so that you're not buying a full kit. All you have to do is scan the QR code and make those copies for your adults or your students. So the
Yep.
same thing is in the student one,
Yep.
to where you can make those copies and get all that you need. So here in Fort Worth, we ordered 47 kits, but
Yep.
we trained 250 last year. And so we obviously need way more copies than that. And that gives us the tools to be able to do that. So,
Yeah. Yeah.
so don't think you
Well,
have to order 200 of these. You do not. So,
correct. First Priority of America is not in the merch business. I said that at the annual meeting.
mhm.
Uh, if you get on our store and order, um, Susan is bulk printing things with a local shop here in Nashville, and we pass that on to you. Like, we're not at marking things up because we have a storefront in a mall or anything. This is Yeah,
Yeah.
that's not how we raise money, is by selling kits. We want to resource you. So if you order from us, you're paying a little bit over costs and getting the resources there, because we don't need you going to FedEx or Kinkos and paying exponentially more than what you need to be doing. Obviously,
Mhm.
and these QR codes are it's available online. If your church has a color printer and they're willing to
Mhm.
let you use that, and you're one off, right? I'm talking to maybe independent clubs or whatever. If you're in a chapter, follow what your staff is doing. But go and do those things, because we want to resource students, and that's what we're trying to do here, not make money. So,
Yeah. The
yep.
other thing as you're ordering is the bracelets that I talked about earlier. This will be the one that you put a number next to of how many you want, but then down further in there or attached to it in the store, I'm not sure how it looks in the store, it will give you the option to instead choose these and add the 51 cents. They're 51 cents more
Hmm.
than these are per bracelet. And so that's the way ordering for those will look. That's the only difference I think on there. So,
Yep. Yep.
yeah,
Sounds good. Well, yeah. If anybody has any questions following this, reach out to us. I think your email is Heather at firstparty.org.
it is.
So, reach out to any one of us. More than willing to help. There's more people in the office as well, that can answer questions and move forward. And hopefully this can help you encourage, equip, and empower students to share the gospel in their
Mhm.
school. So, thank you, Heather, again,
Yeah.
for
Yeah.
leading this team, leading this charge this year. I'm excited to see what the Lord is going to do. Six different gospel tools, well, nine different gospel tools, really, with the holidays.
Right.
Um, Equipping students to just creatively share the gospel with their friends in the school. Continue to hear stories. Heard one yesterday of, students who are coming in. Hey, they smelled donuts, and they come in, and 2 years later, coming to know Jesus as their Lord and
Mhm.
Savior after smelling donuts in a classroom before school one morning, or whatever the case might be, with those wristbands or the life death cards or any of the Valentine's thing,
Mhm.
right? Sending the kids out into the hallway to say, hey, go give Valentines to everybody in the school.
Mhm.
We're just praying for God to do his thing and
Yeah.
change the hearts of students. So, yeah, here we go. Let's do it.
Yeah. If we hit over 12,000 this year nationally of decisions for Christ, how many can we hit this year? Which is
That's
such an
right.
exciting thing
That's right.
for
Amen.
me. So
Amen to that.
thank
So,
you for the opportunity. So I appreciate it. This was fun.
yeah. Well, and to our podcast audience, thanks for listening in. Hope this is beneficial to you. As always, ask you to subscribe to the podcast, to like it, and share it with those who have a passion for evangelism and a passion for reaching students. And let's continue to grow the impact that First Priority has around the country. So thanks for being a part of it. And until next time, we'll see you then.